everybody, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today we're going to be working with ombre inks, and if you've never worked with ombre inks before, we're going to be using Hero Arts' ombre inks. Ombre inks are really fun because you can create some really cool gradation effects using the inks. The inks are formulated with 3 different colors of ink, and as you stamp with them, you get a gradation of color depending on the ink pad you're using. So today I'm going to be using this one here, and it's a combination of red, orange, and yellow inks. I'm going to be pairing this with the Hero Arts Party Animals stamp set. And this is the animals here. You can see there are a bunch of silhouettes. Silhouettes are a great image to work with when you're using ombre inks. So we're going to be creating 2 different cards today. I've got this one here, which features a really fun design, very clean and simple, 1-layer card, so it's very easy to mail. And then the second card has a little bit of extra dimension, but we're going to create a really neat background using that stamp set and the ombre inks. So let's get started in creating the cards and learn more about using ombre inks. Okay, so I've got the stamp set here lined up onto my card. We're going to be creating the 1-layer card first. I've got the animals and the sentiments laid out in the arrangement that I'm going to want for the final finish of the card. I'm going to start mounting the images into my Misty stamping tool. So I've got the ombre ink here. This is a really beautiful combination of red, orange, and yellow ink colors. So an ombre ink pad, you're going to want to tap across your stamp a little bit in an up and down motion, trying to blend the colors in between the inks. Because if you tried to stamp the ink pad onto your stamp in the same direction that it's in right now without blending the colors by moving it up and down, kind of tapping it up and down across your stamp, you're going to get too harsh of an impression because you're going to see where these lines of ink are kind of separating along the image. So you want something that's going to create a blend. So you're going to want to tap that ink pad up and down across your stamp to get that nice gradation of colors. So you can see here as I'm stamping this down onto my card, I have a nice blend of color. Now I find I got the best results with these stamped images and the ombre inks if I went ahead and stamped it twice using my Misty. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this a second time, and I get a really nice blend of color this way. So you can see as the colors blend together, they create this beautiful ombre effect of red, orange, and yellow. So to create my card, I'm going to stamp all of these little images, these silhouettes of the animals, onto the bottom portion of the card. I'm leaving a little bit of space there underneath them so that I can create some ground. But I'm going to stamp all of them in that same ombre ink to get a nice gradation of color and also have a nice line of animals ranging from largest on the right and then getting smaller as they go across the card. I'm also going to bring in some of the supporting elements from that stamp set, and I'm going to add them around my critters and on top of them using some of the party hats and also the balloons. This is another great thing that you can do with ombre inks when you're working with the larger images and you have some smaller images. If you want to stamp them with the solid color, you can definitely do so like I did for the hats. For the balloons, I wanted to have a little bit of gradation of color. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of tap this in a circular motion across the yellow and orange colors of that ink pad. That's going to blend those two together, create a nice, really cool ombre effect on the balloons. I'm going to go ahead and double stamp this to again get that nice gradation of color, and it's very smooth. I'm also going to stamp another balloon in the orange and red, so I tapped that along the orange and red area. After I've added in the balloons, I'm also going to start stamping the sentiments. Now, again, I'm going to use that same ombre ink pad to stamp some of the sentiments. I'm going to only stamp that in one color, so I'm going to make sure I use just the red color for the happy birthday. I'm going to stamp that down with my Misty. Then I'll be able to bring in the next sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that in the yellow ink. So I'm going to make sure I use only the yellow portion of the ink pad. After I've stamped those 2 sentiments, I'm going to bring in another color of ink. This is some Cup of Joe Hero Arts brown ink, and I'm going to stamp the rest of the sentiment right over top in that brown. The brown helps kind of add an extra color to this card and also adds a bit of contrast. I wanted to add some detail to the balloons. The balloons do have a string stamp that's in the stamp set, but I didn't want to use that because it wasn't very long. So I'm going to draw my own strings onto my balloons using an outline pen. This here is a Staedtler fine liner. This is a number 3, but you can use any size pen and any brand. As long as it's going to work well with inks, you're going to be just fine. I usually choose a waterproof pen for something like this. I'm also going to bring in some of those stars from the stamp set and add these around my animals. I'm going to be doing the same thing by stamping the stars in the different colors of ink that's included in that ink pad. So I've got orange, yellow, and red stars, and I'm just scattering these around to help draw some interest and some fun elements into the card design. After I've added those stars, I'm going to also add some white detailing using a Jelly Roll pen. This is a white Jelly Roll. I'm using that to highlight each of the balloons, and I'm also adding some extra detailing to the hats of my two animals. So I added some stripes to the hat on the duck, and then for the giraffe, I'm going to add some polka dots. You can totally skip this step and leave the hats plain, but I wanted to add a little bit of extra interest to the hat elements. Now I'm going to add in the ground. I want this to be perfectly straight, so I'm going to use a piece of scrap paper and fold this over top of my scene so that way I can get a nice straight edge with my Nouveau Creative pen. Nouveau Creative pens are alcohol markers and are really great. I really enjoy using these for coloring. And these are also a great marker to check out if you're a beginner to working with alcohol markers because they have really great blending colors that come in a set. So it takes all the guesswork out of coloring with alcohol markers. You don't have to figure out which colors blend well together. These are pre-chosen. So I definitely would encourage you to check out the Creative pens. To finish off the card, I added some Nouveau dots in both black and white on the animals, and then on top of each of the party hats, I also added a little yellow dot that just helps tie in that yellow from the rest of the card design. So that was a quick and easy one-layer card. This is perfect for sending in the mail. Another card idea I had using the ombre inks was to create a background using the elephant. So I'm going to go ahead and start stamping this elephant all the way across this card. Now this is also a great example of how these ombre inks really look cool on colored cardstocks as well. You want to make sure, of course, that you choose a cardstock color that is a little bit lighter than the inks that you're using because you do want this to show up a little bit. But I'm going to be using here some sticky note cardstock from Lawn Fawn, and I'm stamping the elephants all across this using that same ombre ink that we used for the first card. Again, I'm double stamping all of my elephants just to make sure that I get a nice clean impression. As I'm lining these up, I'm making sure to stamp them in a very straight line across this card because you don't want the elephants to be tipped in any way because this is going to be creating a pattern. You want the pattern to be lined up correctly so that way it looks good across your entire card. So after I've stamped all of my different elephants, I'm going to do the same thing by using that same ink pad and stamping the stars like I did for the first card onto this card. This time I'm stamping the stars all over and filling in the negative spaces between the elephants just to help fill in the background. I cut apart my sentiment that it was included in that stamp set that says, "Today is your day." That was in 2 lines and I wanted it to be in a single line. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up onto my card to create a single line sentiment. And I can always realign this back onto my card in the original position that it was in, but I like being able to have the option of being able to stamp them in 1 or 2 lines. So I'm going to prep some dark colored cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. This is some Kona coffee. I'm going to ink it up with my Simon Says Stamp clear ink. And then I'm going to bring in my Ranger white embossing powder. This is fine line embossing powder. It's going to make sure I get a really nice heat embossed sentiment. After I heat set that, I'm taking it into my Tonic Mini Trimmer. I'm going to trim down the cardstock into a little banner strip. And I ended up stamping 2 sentiments. So one says, "Today is your day," and then I stamped another one in the exact same way using some red cardstock this time. And that's going to finish off the sentiment to say, "Happy birthday." After I've added both sentiments onto my card using foam tape, I tied a little bit of brown twine that matched that beautiful Kona coffee cardstock across the top of the card. So that's a quick look at how you can use ombre inks in 2 different ways to create some fun card designs. I really enjoyed working with the ombre inks and using them with the silhouettes from Hero Arts' Party Animals stamp set. If you too are looking to try out ombre inks, I would encourage you to find a really fun silhouette stamp set, something with a lot of open space and some solid images, and use that in experimenting with the ombre inks and seeing what kind of fun results you can get. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by and spending some time with me. If you enjoyed, please give this video a big thumbs up, and you can subscribe to this channel to get more inspiration every week. Thanks for stopping by. I will see you again very soon, and have a great day. Bye!